Alex was nervous as he stepped off the shuttle and onto the bustling space station. He had been living on Earth for most of his life, but he had decided to take a chance and move to a colony on a distant planet. The new world was exciting, filled with strange landscapes, alien species, and new opportunities. But the thing that made Alex the most nervous was his new living situation. When he first signed up for the apartment, he didn't think much about it. He didn't even know much about his roommate. What he did know was that he was going to be sharing the apartment with a species called the Virexian alien race, known for their intelligence and elegance. He hadn't thought it would be a big deal. After all, this was the future. Humans and aliens coexisted in peace. But the moment Alex walked into the apartment, things felt different. His roommate, Lyra, was standing by the window, looking out at the stars. She was tall, graceful, and striking. Her skin had a pale, almost silver sheen to it, and her dark purple eyes gleamed with an intelligent light. Alex couldn't help but feel a little self-conscious. She was stunning, and he was just, well, him, a regular human. "Hey," Alex said awkwardly, standing in the doorway. Lyra turned around slowly, her eyes studying him for a moment before a faint smile appeared on her face. "You must be Alex," she said in a soft, melodic voice. "I'm Lyra." Alex smiled nervously. "Yeah, that's me. I guess I'll be your roommate." Lyra nodded, her long silver hair swishing behind her. "That's right. I hope you'll be comfortable here." "Sure. I'm sure I will be," Alex replied. "It's nice to meet you." The conversation felt a little forced at first, as Alex didn't know much about alien customs, but Lyra made an effort to make him feel welcome. She gave him a tour of the apartment, showing him his room and the shared spaces. Everything seemed normal enough, except for one thing, Lyra's strange behavior. Over the next few days, Alex noticed small things that didn't quite make sense. For one, Lyra was always a little distant. She would spend a lot of time in her room, and when she did come out, she would be lost in thought. Sometimes, she would stare out the window, gazing at the stars for long periods of time, almost like she was waiting for something. One evening, as Alex was settling in on the couch to watch a movie, Lyra entered the living room, looking a little more frazzled than usual. Her long, silver hair was tied back messily, and her eyes were wide and alert. "Is everything okay?" Alex asked, pausing the movie. Lyra hesitated before answering. "I'm fine," she said quickly, but there was something about her tone that made Alex uneasy. It was like she was hiding something. That night, Alex lay in bed, tossing and turning, wondering what was going on with Lyra. The apartment had been quiet, but there was a strange tension in the air. It was almost like something was about to happen, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. The next morning, he got up early to grab some breakfast. He walked into the kitchen to find Lyra standing by the counter, her back to him. She was muttering something under her breath, her eyes darting around nervously. "Lyra?" Alex asked. She turned quickly, her eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, Alex, you startled me." "Sorry," Alex said, unsure of what was going on. "Are you okay?" Lyra gave him a weak smile. "I'm fine, really. Just dealing with a few things." "Like what?" Alex pressed. Lyra hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "It's nothing. Just my species' mating season is approaching. It's a very complicated time for us." "Mating season?" Alex repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You didn't mention anything about that." Lyra bit her lip. "It's not something I usually talk about. It's not easy to explain to someone who isn't part of our species." Alex's curiosity was piqued. "Well, what exactly happens during this time?" Lyra paused again, looking conflicted. "It's emotional, very emotional. It's a time when we feel a strong connection to others of our kind. There are instincts that we have to fight against, and sometimes they get the better of us." Alex wasn't sure what to say. He could tell that this wasn't an easy topic for her. "Do you need any help with it?" Lyra looked at him for a long moment, her gaze intense. "No, it's something I must handle myself. But thank you for asking." She quickly turned back to the counter, her face flushed. Alex stood there for a moment, feeling more confused than ever. Something told him this was going to be a lot more complicated than just living with an alien roommate. And before he could even process everything, Lyra added quietly, "I hope you're ready for what's coming. It's going to get strange." Alex had no idea what he was getting into. All he knew was that this wasn't the peaceful, quiet living arrangement he had imagined. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning. Alex woke up the next morning to a strange but familiar feeling. The sun was just rising over the distant planet, casting a soft orange light into his room. He had barely slept, his mind filled with questions about Lyra and the strange things she had mentioned. He wasn't sure what to make of it all, but he knew one thing for sure: living with her was going to be anything but ordinary. After a quick breakfast, Alex decided to ask Lyra more about her species and their mating season. He wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, but curiosity was pushing him forward. He found her sitting by the window again, looking out at the stars. "Hey, Lyra," Alex said, walking into the living room. "Can we talk about what you mentioned yesterday?" Lyra turned around slowly, her expression unreadable. "You want to know more about my species' mating season?" she asked. Alex nodded. "Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand it, but I want to. You said it was emotional, and I'm just trying to make sense of everything." Lyra hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with the subject. "It's a difficult thing to explain to humans," she said, her voice soft. "Our mating season is something that happens once every few years. It's not like your human idea of love. For us, it's a time of intense emotions, strong instincts that we can't always control. It's complicated." Alex sat down across from her, listening carefully. He had no idea how to respond, but he wanted to understand. "So, what happens during this time? I mean, how do you deal with it?" Lyra looked away, her purple eyes studying the distant stars. "For my species, it's not just about finding a mate. It's about connection and emotional, mental bond that we form. It's something we can't control. When the season comes, we feel the need to be close to others, to share feelings that are hard to describe." Alex frowned, trying to imagine what that must be like. "So, do you need to be with someone during this time?" Lyra finally met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "It's not that simple. The emotions are overwhelming, and it's difficult to explain. But my species is taught to control our urges, to keep everything in check. Most of us go through the season alone, waiting for it to pass. But there are always exceptions." Alex felt a wave of sympathy for her. He could tell this was something that weighed heavily on her, and it made him feel a little uncomfortable to be in the middle of it all. "That sounds tough. Do you have to go through this every year?" "No," Lyra said quickly, "only every few years. But when it comes, it's hard to ignore. It's like a force you can't fight against." She paused, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I've always been able to control it, but this year, it's different." Alex was quiet for a moment, trying to process everything. He didn't fully understand what Lyra was going through, but he could tell it wasn't easy for her. "So, what does this mean for us, exactly?" he asked, hoping she would clarify. Lyra met his gaze again, her voice barely above a whisper. "It means that I might not be able to control myself around you, Alex. The season affects how I feel, how I act. I might not be the same person you've been living with these past few days." Alex was taken aback. He had never thought about it like that. He just assumed they'd keep living their lives normally. But now it seemed like everything was about to change. "Are you saying you might not be able to be around me at all?" "No," Lyra said quickly, shaking her head. "I don't want to avoid you. I just need you to understand that things might get strange. The emotions might be too much for me to handle. I might not always act the way I want to." She paused, again, looking more vulnerable than Alex had ever seen her. "I didn't want to tell you about this. I didn't want you to see me like this." Alex sat back in his chair, feeling a mixture of sympathy and confusion. He hadn't expected any of this when he moved into the apartment. In fact, he barely even thought about the possibility of living with an alien. But now, as Lyra shared her culture with him, he realized just how complicated things were. "You don't have to explain everything to me," Alex said softly. "I want to understand. But I also want to help, if I can. I mean, I don't know if there's anything I can do, but I'll be here for you. Just let me know how I can help." Lyra looked at him with surprise in her eyes, her lips parting slightly as though she hadn't expected such a response. For a moment, the air between them felt less tense, more open. She seemed to relax, just a little, as she nodded. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft. "It's just hard to explain to someone who's not part of my species. It's not your fault." Alex smiled at her, a little more at ease. "Now, I get it. We're all dealing with something. I'm just glad you told me." Lyra stood up and walked over to the window again, her expression thoughtful. "I hope you can handle this, Alex. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. It's just that the season makes things so unpredictable." "I think we'll be fine," Alex said, standing up as well. "We've got this. We'll figure it out." As Lyra stood by the window, gazing out at the stars, Alex realized that this strange living situation was going to be much more complicated than he had ever imagined. But for now, all he could do was take it one step at a time and try to support his alien roommate as best as he could. After all, he hadn't expected to find an alien roommateur a new adventure when he first moved here. The days that followed were filled with awkward silence between Alex and Lyra. Despite their earlier conversation, there was a noticeable shift in their relationship. Lyra became more withdrawn, spending most of her time in her room, and Alex couldn't help but feel like he was walking on eggshells. Every time he tried to talk to her, she would offer a smile, but it never seemed to reach her eyes. It was like there was a wall between them, something neither of them knew how to break. Alex tried to keep busy. He would spend his days exploring the colony, getting to know the alien species that lived there, and working at his new job. But each time he returned to the apartment, he would find Lyra either lost in thought or avoiding him altogether. The distance between them only grew as the mating season drew closer, and Alex couldn't help but wonder if their friendship could survive the tension that seemed to hang in the air. One evening, as Alex sat down to dinner, he heard a soft knock on his door. It was Lyra. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice calm but heavy with something Alex couldn't quite place. "Of course," Alex replied, standing up and motioning for her to come in. Lyra stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. She didn't sit down right away. Instead, she walked over to the window, looking out at the stars as she had so many times before. Alex noticed that her posture seemed tense, as though she were bracing herself for something. "Alex," she began after a long pause, "I need to tell you something more, something I didn't mention before." Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. He nodded, signaling for her to continue. "I've been struggling with this for a long time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The mating season. It's not just about the emotions. It's about our instincts. We can't fight them, not completely. And sometimes, those instincts, they make us act in ways we don't want to. Ways I don't want to." Alex's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" Lyra turned toward him, her eyes filled with an emotion Alex couldn't read. "I mean that I'm afraid. I'm afraid that my instincts will overpower my judgment, that I won't be able to control how I feel. And that's something I can't risk, especially not with you." Alex's heart sank. He had never seen her so vulnerable, and it made him feel uncomfortable. "I don't understand, Lyra. You've been so open with me, but now it feels like you're pushing me away. You don't have to do this alone." Lyra's eyes shimmered with a mixture of frustration and sadness. "I don't want to push you away, but it's not that simple. The mating season is not just about emotions. It's about connection, a deep bond, and when those instincts take over, they make everything feel uncontrollable. I don't want to drag you into that. I don't want to put you in a situation where you might feel uncomfortable or worse, betrayed by what I might do." Alex took a deep breath, trying to calm the rising tension in his chest. Lyra, I get that it's difficult for you, but I want to help. I care about you. I don't want to see you struggle through this alone. Lyra's gaze softened for a moment, but then she shook her head. It's not just about helping. It's about the consequences. I'm not sure I can maintain control. I've always been able to, but this time feels different. Alex took a step closer to her. You don't have to go through it alone. Whatever happens, I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. For a moment, there was silence between them. Lyra's eyes were closed. Her hands clenched at her sides. She seemed lost in thought, as though battling with herself. Finally, she spoke, her voice quieter now. Thank you, Alex, she said, her voice full of emotion. I know you mean well, but I don't want to risk everything for something I'm not sure I can control. I've been taught to keep my distance during this time, to not let my instincts take over. But it's hard. It's harder than I thought. Alex reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to do it by yourself. We can figure this out together. Whatever happens, we'll handle it. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for a moment before she nodded slowly. I appreciate that, Alex. I really do. But I need to be careful. I don't want to hurt you. Alex gave her a small smile. You won't hurt me. I trust you. For the first time in days, Lyra seemed to relax, her shoulders dropping as the tension in her body eased. Thank you for understanding. It's just so hard to explain to someone who's not part of my species. I get it, Alex said, and I want to understand. We'll take it one step at a time. No pressure. Lyra smiled at him, though it was a sad smile. One step at a time, yes, that's all we can do right now. As the conversation came to an end, Lyra turned to leave, but Alex stopped her. Lyra, he said gently, just remember, I'm here, always. She paused, glancing back over her shoulder. I'll keep that in mind. With that, she left the room, leaving Alex standing there, his thoughts swirling. The bond between him and Lyra was growing stronger, but the tension of her species' mating season hung over them both. Alex had never felt more uncertain. But one thing was clear, this was only the beginning of a journey neither of them had expected. The days after their conversation were quieter, but the tension between Alex and Lyra remained, though they spoke. Occasionally, it was clear that something had shifted. Lyra had become even more distant, spending long hours in her room, while Alex tried to focus on his work and the tasks he had at hand. It wasn't that they were fighting or anything, it was just different. The air between them felt thick with unspoken words and questions. But one evening, something unexpected happened. Alex had just returned home after a long day at work. He was tired, but something about the quiet apartment felt off. He noticed that the lights in the living room were dimmed, and the faint sound of soft music played in the background. Lyra was sitting on the couch, her eyes closed, her expression peaceful. The room was filled with a calm, almost intimate atmosphere that Alex hadn't felt before. Hey, Lyra, Alex said softly as he stepped inside. Lyra opened her eyes and smiled at him. Oh, Alex, you're back. I didn't hear you coming. You look relaxed, Alex said, raising an eyebrow. He hadn't seen her so calm in a while. Lyra shrugged, a hint of a smile still playing at the corners of her lips. I've been trying to clear my mind. It helps sometimes. Alex sat down on the other side of the couch. Looking at her carefully, he could tell she was trying to keep her distance. But something about the way she was acting made him feel more at ease than he had in days. It wasn't just the calmness, it was the way she seemed to open up, even if just for a moment. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the soft music filling the space between them. Alex wasn't sure what to say, but he couldn't help but feel a growing curiosity. There was something about Lyra that he couldn't quite place, something that kept drawing him in. He had thought of her only as a roommate before, but now, with the way she looked, the way she moved, he found himself noticing things he hadn't noticed before. Lyra, on the other hand, seemed to be struggling with her own thoughts. She knew the mating season was drawing closer, and the emotions she was trying to suppress were becoming harder to ignore. She had always been able to control herself, but now, with Alex in the picture, things were different. As she looked at him, she saw more than just a human roommate. She saw someone who had been kind to her, someone who had shown her understanding when she needed it most. And despite her fear of what might happen, she couldn't deny the connection she felt between them. "You know, Alex," Lyra said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking about what you said, about taking things one step at a time." Alex looked at her, his expression soft. "I meant it, Lyra. Whatever happens, we'll take it slow. No rush." Lyra smiled, but it wasn't the same forced smile she had shown him earlier. It was a genuine one that made her look more vulnerable, more human. "I appreciate that. More than you know." Alex's heart skipped a beat. There it was again, the strange pull he felt toward her. It wasn't just sympathy anymore. It was something more, something he didn't fully understand. But it was there. In the way his chest tightened whenever she was near. In the way his thoughts lingered on her long after she had left the room. For a moment, Alex felt his words falter. "Lyra," he paused, unsure of how to express what he was feeling. "I don't want you to think that I'm trying to rush you into something. I just want to be here for you." Lyra's eyes softened as she turned to face him. "I know, Alex, I do, and I'm grateful. But the truth is, I'm scared. I'm scared that I won't be able to control how I feel, and I don't want to put you in a situation where you might regret getting close to me." Alex swallowed hard. He had always been cautious with his emotions, but something about Lyra made him want to take a risk. "I'm not going anywhere, Lyra. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of what might happen. I just want to be here with you." For a brief moment, Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She had expected him to pull away, to be afraid of what she had said. But instead, there was nothing but kindness in his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know how much that means to me." Alex nodded, the weight of the moment settling over them. The room felt warmer, the silence between them more comfortable than it had ever been. And for the first time since their conversation about the mating season, Alex didn't feel like there was a wall between them. He wasn't sure what the future held. He wasn't sure how things would work out between them. But in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't ready to let go of the connection they had. Lyra stood up, slowly, her eyes lingering on him for a moment before she spoke again. "I think I'm going to get some rest. It's been a long day." Alex stood as well, his gaze fixed on her. "Of course. I'll see you in the morning." Lyra nodded and made her way to her room, but before she closed the door, she turned back to him with a soft smile. "Good night, Alex." "Good night, Lyra," he said, his voice quiet but filled with sincerity. As she disappeared behind the door, Alex stood there for a long moment, his thoughts racing. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. He was no longer just a human in a new world. He was someone who had crossed a boundary he hadn't even known existed, and in doing so, had discovered something deeper than he had ever expected. The days were passing quickly, and Alex could feel the weight of the coming mating season pressing down on him. He hadn't expected things to be so complicated when he first moved in with Lyra. He had hoped for a peaceful, quiet existence, but instead, he found himself tangled in an emotional web he hadn't signed up for. It wasn't just the awkwardness of living with an alien roommate. It was the growing tension between them that was hard to ignore. Lyra had been more distant than ever lately. She spent most of her time in her room, and when she did come out, it was usually only for a few minutes before retreating again. Her eyes, once warm and kind, now seemed clouded with uncertainty. Alex couldn't help but feel the distance between them and the loneliness that came with it. One evening, as the sun began to set, Alex found himself staring out the window. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, but instead of feeling peaceful, the sight only made him feel more restless. He knew that Lyra was struggling, but he didn't know how to help. She had made it clear that the mating season was something she had to go through on her own. But the thought of her going through it in isolation made his chest tighten. He wished there was more he could do for her. Just as he was lost in his thoughts, he heard the soft sound of footsteps approaching from behind. He turned to see Lyra standing in the doorway, her expression serious. "Alex," she said softly. "Can we talk?" Alex's heart skipped a beat. There was something in her voice that told him this wasn't going to be just another casual conversation. He nodded and motioned for her to sit down. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Lyra stepped inside. But she didn't sit right away. She stood there for a moment, as if gathering her thoughts. Before she finally spoke, "I've been avoiding you," she said quietly, "and I'm sorry. It's just, this season is harder than I thought. I'm feeling things I didn't expect, and I don't know how to control it anymore." Alex listened carefully, his heart going out to her. "Lyra, you don't have to apologize. I understand that this is a difficult time for you. I just wish you didn't have to go through it alone." Lyra shook her head. "You don't understand, Alex. The emotions are getting stronger every day. I can feel them building up inside me, and it's overwhelming. I can't fight it anymore. And I'm afraid of what might happen if I can't control it." Alex stood up and walked toward her, his voice gentle. "What are you afraid of?" Lyra. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, she looked like she was on the verge of tears. "I'm afraid that I'll do something I'll regret, something that will change everything between us. I don't want to hurt you, but I can't guarantee that I'll be able to stop myself. The instincts of my species, they're powerful. And right now, they're telling me to act on them." Alex's heart ached as he reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lyra, I don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. You don't have to fight it by yourself. We'll figure it out together." Lyra looked down at his hand, then back up at him, her expression a mixture of relief and fear. "You don't understand what you're saying. It's not that simple. I've been taught my whole life to resist these urges, to keep my emotions in check. But right now, everything is spinning out of control. I don't know how much longer I can keep it all together." Alex stepped closer, his voice firm but kind. "I understand that this is a big deal for you, Lyra, but I also know that we can handle it. You don't have to go through this alone. We'll take it one step at a time, just like we've always done. Whatever happens, I'm here for you." Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time in days, Alex saw a flicker of the warmth that had drawn him to her in the first place. She reached up and placed a hand on his, squeezing it gently. "You really mean that, don't you?" Alex nodded. "I do." There was a long pause between them, and Alex could feel the tension in the air. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't stand the idea of Lyra going through this alone. They had come so far together, and he wasn't about to walk away now. "I'm scared, Alex," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to control myself anymore." Alex could hear the vulnerability in her voice, and it made his chest tighten. He gently cupped her face in his hands, making her look at him. "You don't have to control it alone. We'll figure it out together, Lyra. One step at a time." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. When she opened them again, there was a new resolve in her gaze. "I'll try," she said quietly. "I'll try to control it. For you." Alex smiled, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you, Lyra. I'm here for you, always." For a moment, they just stood there, the silence between them comfortable in a way it hadn't been in days. But then, Lyra spoke again, her voice low and uncertain. "There's one more thing, Alex," she said. "What is it?" Alex asked. Concerned, Lyra took a deep breath before answering. "I don't want you to think this is easy for me. It's not, but I need you to understand that I can't always be the person you want me to be during this time. It's not something I can control, no matter how hard I try." Alex nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it, Lyra. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm just asking that you let me be here with you, no matter what." Lyra smiled, and for the first time in a long while, Alex felt the tension between them begin to melt away. The road ahead might still be uncertain, but he knew one thing for sure. They would face it together. The days were passing faster than Alex had expected. He tried his best to focus on his work, but his thoughts often drifted back to Lyra. The tension between them had lessened since their heart-to-heart conversation, but things still weren't quite the same. Lyra was still distant, still struggling with the emotional turmoil of her species' mating season, but now she seemed to be more aware of her feelings. Alex couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. One evening, Alex returned home earlier than usual. He had been out for a walk, trying to clear his mind, but now, as he entered the apartment, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The air in the apartment was quiet, almost peaceful, and when he made his way into the living room, he found Lyra sitting by the window, looking out at the stars, just as she often did. She looked so serene, so lost in thought, and Alex couldn't help but be drawn to her. He hesitated for a moment before walking over to her. "Hey, Lyra," he said gently, his voice soft but steady. Lyra turned to him, a small smile forming on her lips. "Alex, you're back early." "Yeah, I thought I'd take a break," he said, sitting down beside her. There was a brief silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable this time. It was as if they were both settling into the new normal of their relationship, one that wasn't perfect, but still held potential. "I've been thinking," Lyra said, breaking the silence, "about what you said the other day, about taking things one step at a time." Alex nodded. "I meant it. We'll figure it out together, whatever happens." Lyra looked at him for a moment, her eyes thoughtful. "I know you mean that, but I think I've been afraid. I've been afraid of letting myself feel anything for you, afraid of what it might mean." Alex felt a sudden flutter in his chest, but he didn't interrupt. He just listened, waiting for her to continue. "The truth is," Lyra said, her voice quieter now, "I've been afraid of losing control. I've always been able to keep my emotions in check, but this season, it's different. I can feel the pull, the urge to connect, and it's hard to ignore it every day. But what scares me is not that it's happening, it's that it's happening with you." Alex's heart skipped a beat at her words. He hadn't expected her to say this, hadn't expected her to admit what he had been feeling too. But now, hearing it from her, he realized that they were both in uncharted territory. "You don't have to be afraid, Lyra," Alex said softly. "I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere." Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time in days, she seemed to relax, her shoulders dropping as the tension in her body eased. "I don't want to hurt you, Alex. I don't want to make you feel like you're being dragged into something you're not ready for." "I'm ready," Alex replied, his voice firm but kind. "I don't know what this is or where it's going, but I know that I want to be here with you. I want to face whatever comes next, together." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable, but Alex could see the uncertainty in her eyes slowly fading. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to control myself," she said quietly, "but I don't want to keep pushing you away. I don't want to hide from what's happening between us." "You don't have to control everything," Alex said gently, his hand resting on the arm of the couch. "We don't have to control anything. We just have to take it one step at a time. And if things get difficult, we deal with it together." Lyra's eyes searched his face for a long moment, and then, slowly, she nodded. "One step at a time," she repeated softly. For a moment, they just sat there, the silence between them comfortable now, as if a weight had been lifted. The tension that had once felt so heavy was no longer suffocating. There was still uncertainty. Yes, but there was also something else, something they both knew they couldn't ignore any longer. "Thank you, Alex," Lyra said finally, her voice full of emotion. "Thank you for being patient with me. I don't know if I deserve it, but I'm glad you're here." Alex smiled at her, his heart warm. "You don't have to thank me. I'm not going anywhere." As Lyra looked out the window again, her expression thoughtful, Alex couldn't help but feel that they had crossed a line, one that would shape everything that came after. But in that moment, he didn't feel afraid. He felt certain that, no matter what happened next, they would face it together. The night was quiet, the stars outside shimmering like tiny lights in the distance. It felt peaceful, like the calm before the storm. But for the first time in a long time, Alex didn't mind the quiet. It wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't uncertain. It was just them. And for the first time, he felt like they were on the same page. Lyra looked at him again, small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. I think this will be okay. Alex nodded, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. Yeah, I think it will be too. The days leading up to the height of Lyra's mating season were filled with uncertainty, but they were also filled with a sense of hope. Alex had noticed a change in Lyra. She seemed less distant, more open. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. They had agreed to take things one step at a time, and so far, that approach was working. There was still tension between them, but it was a tension they both understood. One evening, after dinner, Alex found Lyra sitting at the table, her hands resting on the edge as she stared down at them. He could see the anxiety in her posture, the way her shoulders were stiff. It was clear that the emotions she had been trying to control were becoming harder to keep in check. She had tried her best to remain composed, but the mating season was taking its toll. Lyra? Alex called softly, stepping into the kitchen. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes dark with the weight of her thoughts. I'm sorry, Alex. I know. I've been distant. It's just, I can feel it building inside me. The emotions are stronger than I've ever felt before. Alex walked over to her, his steps slow but steady. I understand, he said gently, but you don't have to do this alone. We agreed we'd face it together. Lyra shook her head, her expression conflicted. I know, but I don't want to drag you into this. Alex, you don't deserve to be caught in the middle of all of this. I've tried so hard to control it, but it's not working. Alex took a deep breath and sat down beside her, placing a hand on the table between them. Lyra, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of what's happening. I just want to be here for you. You don't have to fight it alone. For a moment, there was silence. Lyra's eyes were focused on his hand, the gesture small but meaningful. Then, slowly, she reached out, her fingers brushing against his. Thank you, Alex, she whispered. I don't know what I would do without you. Alex smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. You don't have to worry about that. We're in this together. One step at a time, remember? Lyra nodded, a small but genuine smile appearing on her face for the first time in days. Alex felt a sense of calm settle between them. It wasn't the end of the struggle, but it felt like a turning point. They were no longer just two roommates to strangers who happened to live in the same apartment. They were becoming something more, something that neither of them had expected. As the days passed, Lyra seemed to relax a little. She wasn't completely free from the emotional chaos of the mating season, but she was no longer hiding from it. She allowed herself to open up to Alex, to share the struggle with him, and that, in itself, made a huge difference. The tension between them had lessened, and though it wasn't gone completely, it was easier to breathe around each other. One afternoon, Alex came home from work to find Lyra sitting on the couch, a book in her hands. She looked up when he walked in, her eyes a little brighter than usual. Hey, Alex, she said, her voice light. I was thinking, we could go for a walk outside, if you're up for it. Alex raised an eyebrow, surprised by the suggestion. Outside, isn't it pretty cold out there? Lyra smiled, a playful glint in her eyes. It's not that bad. Besides, we could use the fresh air. It's been a while since we've done anything outside of the apartment. Alex chuckled, the idea of a simple walk sounding comforting. He had been so focused on everything that was happening with Lyra that he had almost forgotten what it felt like to just be. I think a walk sounds good, he agreed. They left the apartment and made their way outside, the cool air refreshing against their skin. The colony was peaceful, the quiet hum of distant activity blending with the sounds of nature around them. As they walked side by side, Alex couldn't help but notice how different things felt between them now. The atmosphere was relaxed, not tense, and there was something easy about their conversation. They didn't talk about the mating season. They didn't have to. They were just two people, walking together, sharing a moment of peace. Lyra had her moments of uncertainty, yes, but in this moment, Alex felt that they were okay. As they reached the edge of the colony, they stopped to look out over the vast landscape. The stars were beginning to twinkle in the sky, and the view was breathtaking. For a few minutes, they just stood there, taking it all in. I used to come here alone, Lyra said quietly, her voice distant. I would sit and think, try to sort through everything that was going on inside me. It was my way of coping. Alex turned to look at her, noticing the quiet sadness in her eyes. I think you've been doing a great job of coping, he said, softly, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. I'm here, Lyra. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for a moment before she spoke. I know, she whispered, and that means more to me than you'll ever know. They stood there for a little while longer, the quiet between them comfortable. It was a moment of clarity, a moment of understanding. Lyra wasn't completely free from the struggle, and neither was Alex. But they had reached a place where they could face it together, and in that moment, Alex felt something else, something he hadn't expected. It wasn't just friendship. It was something deeper, something that, no matter how uncertain the future seemed, would always be there between them. Let's head back, Alex said after a while, his voice warm. It's getting late. Lyra nodded, a soft smile on her lips. Yeah, let's go home. As they walked back to the apartment, side by side, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but he was no longer afraid of what might come. They had each other, and that was enough.